deferens, or one vas deferens, and then several small arteries, several small veins, and several nerves. So what we're looking at right here is we're looking at the ductus deferens. That's what this big circle here is. So the way that you know that's the ductus deferens, one, it's going to be the biggest circle that we see in here. And we'll scan around and look at some other circles. You can see here's a small one, here's a small one. There's some small ones around here, and there'll be more later. But the biggest one's going to be the ductus deferens. In the lumen, where the sperm would be traveling through, that's this circle right here. And all this little stuff in here, this is sperm that's in there. So if we magnify that, you'll be able to see that sperm. Now, you may or may not see sperm in your ductus deferens. It just depends on your particular slide and how much sperm was in there when they prepped that particular spermatic cord. But when you look at this, you should see a nice big layer of smooth muscle cells. That's what this is. And if we magnify this, we would be able to see smooth muscle cells. And remember that they are relatively small. They're tapered or spindly, meaning that they're fatter in the middle and then they taper down to the ends. They've got one nucleus right in the middle of the cell. So again, if we magnified this, we'd be able to see lots of smooth muscle cells in here. The cells that line the lumen here, those are epithelial cells. And they stay nice and dark because they're adjacent to one another. They're packed in real close together because remember, that's kind of the definition of epithelial cells. They're packed adjacent to one another, close together. And this is probably simple columnar epithelial cells. And you can kind of see that that band of dark purple looks kind of like a column. And again, if we magnified it, you'd be able to see it better. So that's our ductus deferens, and let's just scan around here and look for some arteries and veins. So I'm just going to move over here to this field. And over here we've got some arteries and veins. Okay. So the arteries, remember, are going to be nice and round. This would be an artery. And you can see that it has the same kind of shape as the ductus deferens, but it's much, much smaller. So when you look at this artery here, it also will have smooth muscle in here, but again, you can see that that layer of smooth muscle is much smaller than what you saw in the ductus deferens. This would be the lumen where the blood is traveling through, and that lumen is going to be lined with a layer of simple squamous epithelial cells. And again, if we magnified this, we'd be able to see simple squamous epithelia. From this magnification, you can see that it's a little bit darker there on the innermost part. That's kind of helping you to know that it's epithelia. And you can definitely see that this is much shorter than the simple columnar epithelia that we saw in the ductus deferens. So that should be able to help you tell artery versus ductus deferens. Now, right beside it, this would be a vein, an equivalent-sized vein. And you can see that this is oval or elliptical shaped, and we don't even see the end of it. The rest of it would probably be down here. So veins are going to have a bigger lumen. This is much bigger, this lumen, than the artery is. It will have a layer of smooth muscle, but it won't be as thick as the artery. It will also be lined with simple squamous epithelia, so that would be simple squamous epithelia. And again, the shape is helping you to know that that's a vein versus this nice round shape as an artery. Then all of these smaller circles in here, these would be nerves. These smaller solid circles, those would be nerves. Now, when you look at this, so just take a look again, artery, vein, and that would be a vein right there. This would be a vein right here. This would be an artery right here. That would be a vein right there. So just take a look at those and then compare that one more time to the ductus deferens. Which is right there. Okay? Again, much bigger, much thicker layer of smooth muscle cells, simple columnar epithelia lining the lumen. Now, sometimes the arteries and veins will have blood in them still. So let me just show you what that looks like, just so you get a sense. This right here, these are arteries. And this part here in the middle, that's just blood that didn't get flushed out of that vessel. So on the test, I will show you arteries and veins that don't have blood in there. Or if there is blood, it's just a little bit, so that you can actually see the lumen. Okay? But just FYI, these would be arteries also. Round shape, nice thick layer of smooth muscle cells. Smooth muscle, simple squamous epithelia, dried up blood in there. So that's your spermatic cord. If we now switch over and look at, let's compare the testes to the epididymis. And I think this is probably the